let's get to the show, man. Royal Rumble 2000, man. I love the open to this show. I love the way MSG looks. I like the set that they do here. And we have got Kurt Angle coming out to, a welcome that only New York City could give him. He's on an undefeated streak. He's out here preaching positivity, and he's got his three eyes, and man, that white meat baby face stuff, New York wants nothing to do with it. And then we get to learn who the mystery opponent is. And when that music hits and the audience realizes that this is their hometown guy, Taz, the crowd goes nuts.
Yeah. One of the biggest, Taz earned one of the biggest ovations that I'd ever heard in the Garden from anybody in WWE in my career there. There are times, I remember when Austin came back. I remember when Triple H came back. A lot of guys returning that we can go back on and say, well, that was a big pop. They all were. You're right. But nothing I ever heard from a brand new guy that had never worked in WWE before overshadows what Taz did. I know for him personally, and congratulations on Taz, he signed a long-term contract to broadcast on AEW. And of course, we got renewed by TNT through 2023, which is great for me, because I was always wondering what I was going to do when I got past 70. I want to work. So hopefully I'll get that opportunity. That's good for the company. And Taz is there now, so it's good for us to have a quality guy on our team. But man, he got the audience went nuts. They went nuts. And the beauty of this match, here's the irony of this thing. We ain't got Austin there. We got a match that went 3 minutes and 16 seconds between Taz and Kurt.
By the way, the crowd goes bananas, and they're chanting while Kurt's trying to do the promo and really piss off all the fans. There's already a "We Want Taz" chant, even though you guys had been denying online on the website that it was not Taz and he would not be the mystery opponent. They're ready for it. And when he comes out, huge ovation, big ECW chant. Meltzer would say Angle looked like a total superstar coming out. Everything they did was really good, but a lot of good suplexes thrown in, but they were so rushed. They were doing near falls before anyone even cared about the match. Mm-hmm. Angle took a great backdrop over the top rope, and one time landed almost on his head from a suplex. And after the suplex on his head, Taz delivered a head and arm suplex and a T-bone suplex before putting on the choke, and the ref stopped the match. And they were doing the gimmick, whether or not it's a choke or a sleeper.
Right.
Angle in his post-match interview didn't know what happened, still thought he was undefeated. This has been talked about a lot. By the way, Meltzer gave the match 2 stars, but Taz does not look back at this moment very fondly. He said that he felt like, you know, when he hears the pop from the crowd, he thought, oh no, I'm screwed. And this is wrestlers getting in their own head, because he thought this wasn't their creation. I'm over before they want me to be over.
Oh God,
this is not ideal. And that's,
he might overthought that a little bit, Conrad, to be honest with you.
Well, here's the other thing. You guys on commentary are debating as to whether or not his finisher is even legal.
Right.
Is it a sleeper? Is it a choke? I mean,
right.
I understand if I'm a wrestler and I'm a new guy and everybody's sort of looking over their shoulder anyway, paranoia is real in wrestling. But if you were him, you've got to be thinking when you see and hear that, hey, are they really trying to help me? And then the next day, he gets a phone call, and I think when he shows up to the building immediately, Vince and Paul and not Paul, but Vince and Bruce want to meet with him and tell him that he's dangerous and that he's not going to be dropping guys on their head here. And that's not what they do. And I think Taz would say this was really just a miscommunication in the match where, you know, Kurt was trying to help him out on the suplex and he jumped a little bit, and Taz didn't want guys to do that. He wanted to just muscle him up himself, and he could do it, and felt like he had better control when he was in total control. So he sits him down and starts to move over again. Even though the reaction from the fans are there, Taz looks back at this and thinks, man, I was fucked from day one. What's your reaction to that?
Well, I think he had a little overreaction there when he heard the crowd pop. There's no way as a talent or someone that's involved in talent management that I'm going to look at a great pop like that as a negative. I think he overreacted there, in my opinion. I do remember there were moments in the match, and look, Taz didn't do those moves, the suplexes, a cappella. Kurt was taking them. Kurt was a little bit daredevilish. It takes two to tango in these scenarios. But there's no doubt that there was some release type suplexes, some things going on that we had not had a lot of in WWE. And the reason for that was because they're not totally safe. And you got to have a guy that knows how to take the bumps, that is prepared for it. There were moments in that 3-minute, 16-second match that somebody could perceive that Kurt was just going along to try to help Taz, but he was acquiescing to unsafe moves. And you can't throw guys on their head. You can't. And so I don't know if that's anybody's fault. It could be nerves. It could be not as bad as people thought. But look, Taz was a difference maker. I remember, I can see in my mind as we speak right this very minute that my secretary handed me a note from a phone message from Peter Cernicchia. So the first thing I say, who the fuck is Peter Cernicchia? Well, he said you'd know who he was. He's one of the boys. So hell, I didn't have any idea who Peter Cernicchia was. I know his real name. I certainly knew who Taz was, but I didn't know what Taz's real name. So I did some investigative work, and that's Taz. And Taz is very leery. Taz is still, he gets unsettled too damn easy. I kid him about it. So that was the deal. He just, I think he was a little bit paranoid. He still is paranoid in a lot of ways. He shouldn't be. He should be sure of himself. He's got great ability, but I think that whole thing was kind of blown out of proportion. And I don't know how comfortable he was once he got with us. And then I can tell you that not too long after that, he tore his pec. I think, or tricep. He tore something, and he was concerned. I remember Bruce and I talking to him. I said, "Look, we're not going to turn you loose. We're going to pay for your surgery. We're going to pay your weekly until while you're healing, and then we'll hope to get you back to work." And that was the bottom line of that deal. We weren't going to screw you around. We're not going to screw you around, and we didn't. But he had never been in an environment like that. He felt totally that he was going to be protected and taken care of. But a lot of guys didn't like Taz because he got over at 5'8". And again, it's that same old deal of size matters. And if you're 6'3" or 4, you're going to endorse that all you can because you want Vince to not change his philosophy. But he goddamn sure changed his philosophy during this whole period of time because we got Taz in there, we got Benoit, we got Malenko, Saturn, and the lovable, God bless him, Eddie. And none of them were 6 feet tall. So a lot of things happened that was going against the grain of some of the power brokers behind the scenes, and certainly some of the creative guys that heard Vince say over and over, he's too short, and you got to be bigger. We got to be bigger. You got to be able to project. And so they bought it. And so a lot of those guys were always on the other side of the short guys I was recruiting.